to today's Facebook Live, where we are going to be talking all about Etsy fees and what your actual costs are when you are selling on Etsy. This is something that causes a lot of confusion for people, and they really struggle to understand not only what the actual fees are, but also how Etsy lists them in your bill so that you can understand what each of those transaction fees or the fees that are listed on the transactions are, and that you're not confused about what you're paying. So I hear it all over the internet all the time that people talk about how expensive it is to sell on Etsy. And it's something that I really want to dive into because the Etsy platform is one of the very cheapest ways to sell online, and it has the most cost-effective fees associated with any type of platform like this, like an eBay or an Amazon or whatever. So I really want to bust through this myth and dive into it. If you see me like looking up and down, I do have some notes because I wanted to make sure that I covered everything, that I didn't leave anything out when I'm totally on the fly. A lot of times I get like kind of nervous being live because it's nerve-wracking. And so then I forget to say things that I wanted to say. So I do have some notes. So if you see me like looking up and down, it's because I'm looking at my notes to make sure that I cover what I want to cover. So as a reminder for you guys that are tuning in, I am doing a series of Facebook Lives all next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Every day will be at 2 p.m. We are going to talk about Etsy myths and cover a different topic that are things that I see online on Facebook groups all the time that people are talking about that are just myths about selling on Etsy. And then we're going to cap that off next week with my free masterclass, 3 sneaky mistakes that will sink your Etsy shop and how to fix them for Etsy success, which is happening at 9 a.m. on Friday. And that will also be when the doors to scale your sales open. So if you've been wanting that information or you want to be on the lookout for that, definitely check your email if you're on my email list, but you can register for the masterclass at laurenkeplinger.com/sneaky mistakes. So we're going to bust through this one a little bit early today, and then all next week we'll be covering different myths throughout the week. Each day will be a different one. I want to put these myths to rest so that you can stop believing them, stop repeating them, see them, and just know that they're not true and move on because they're not serving your business and they're just incorrect information. And I'm not all about that, as we saw on my post earlier today in the Facebook group. Okay, so let's get started with your Etsy fees. The first one that I want to talk about with you is your listing fee. So this one is pretty basic, pretty straightforward. Listing fees are 20 cents. It's pretty simple to understand that when you list a product, it's 20 cents, except that a lot of times people get a little bit confused when they start talking about selling multiple items or multiple quantities of the same item. So that's kind of where people get broken down and like, how are they charging me and what are they charging me? So when you list an item and you hit publish on that listing that you've created, you're charged 20 cents right off the bat. That's regardless of if the item sells or if you decide to delete it or deactivate it or whatever. You have to pay that 20 cents when you hit publish on that listing. Now, again, if you're selling multiple items, this gets a little more complicated. So for example, let's say you sell something that normally sells in a set for people, or people normally purchase it as one of a, certain quantity, a set. If you list them as individuals, you're going to be charged 20 cents for every listing that you sell if it's listed as one item on there. So if you sell one of them, you are let's say you activate that item, you pay the 20-cent listing fee, and you sell a quantity of one of them, and then it relists because you have more of them to sell, you'll pay the 20 cents again. But let's say all of a sudden you're selling these in much bigger quantities, like people are buying 10 of them at a time or 5 of them at a time. You're going to be charged that 20 cents for every quantity of one that people are purchasing. So sometimes people get confused about this because they think that if they're selling the same item in multiple quantities, they're only going to be paying that listing fee once, or they're seeing it as an additional charge. Like I had to pay, $2 for this listing fee and it should have only been 20 cents. So if you sell something that comes in quantities, or you sell something that people often like to buy in sets or quantities of more than one, it might be beneficial to you to list them in the quantity that is most likely to be purchased by people rather than individually. So let's say we sell mugs, like coffee mugs, and people normally buy them in a set of 4 because they're buying them to match something or whatever. If you list it in a set of 4, then you're only going to pay the listing fee one time. If you list it as just one mug and then people buy a quantity of 4, you're going to pay that listing fee 4 times. So you want to think about your products, and you want to think about how people are using them and what quantities they're using them in, so that you can optimize that, because that is a way to, not that the 20 cents is probably going to make or break your shop, but it is a way to lower your fee burden if you know that people are buying these together, or they're buying them as a set, or they're buying multiple quantities or whatever. You can combine them into one listing so that you're only paying that listing fee one time. The listing fee covers a period of 4 months. So the listing will stay active in your shop for 4 months, and you're only charged one time to list that item unless you renew it for some reason, or unless it sells and you have it automatically renewed. Or like we just talked about, if you have multiple quantities of it, so it's renewing in those quantities as you're selling multiple ones. At the end of that 4-month period of time, it will either automatically renew if you have it set that way, or it will expire and then it will be removed from your shop as an expired listing, and you will either have to go in and manually renew it or not if you don't want to. You can figure out how much you're paying in listing fees by going to your shop dashboard, and then you go to your payment account, the thing on the side, on the left-hand side, if you're on a desktop. The left-hand side is your payment account, and then you click on each individual month. There is a breakdown of how your listing fees are being charged. These fees come out of your payment account prior to the money being deposited into your bank account, or if you don't have any money in your bank account, they're charged to a credit card. So sometimes people will say, I didn't have any sales and I had to pay $10 in fees for Etsy. But those are listing fees. You pay those listing fees regardless of if the item sells or not. And so that could be potentially a charge that shows up on whatever card you have linked to your account if you don't have any sales. All right, I'm just checking the comments really quick. So Michelle asked really quick about the listing fees. I sell tea towels. If someone buys 4 of the exact same towel, am I charged 80 cents? Yes, you are. You are charged every time that listing renews itself, which is pretty much what's happening when you're buying 4 of them. Okay, so that's listing fees. Those are probably the easiest to understand and like kind of the most straightforward. But now I want to talk about transaction fees. This is the next category of fees that you're paying on Etsy, and a source of a lot of confusion for people. These transaction fees only happen if you actually make a sale. So if you don't have any sales, you will still pay listing fees, but you won't pay any transaction fees because you won't have any transactions. Etsy charges a 5% transaction fee on all transactions that are taking place. So that's pretty straightforward, except for when you look in your payment account, they break it down in a weird way that makes it look a little more complicated. So I want you to think of it as a total transaction, regardless of how you have structured the transaction. For example, if you don't offer free shipping and you have a shipping price set for the charge, or let's say you offer free shipping over $35, but this particular purchase was under $35, so they have to pay for their shipping, then the transaction fee is separated out for that shipping charge. So it's not that they charge an extra fee for the shipping, or it's not like I saw in the Facebook group earlier, someone said, if you print your shipping labels from Pirate Ship instead of Etsy, you can avoid that fee. That's not true. They're charging the transaction fee on the total amount of money that is coming in through that transaction. It's not really separated out. They just separate it out on the bill for, I don't know what reason why they do that, but it is 5% across the board for however much money is coming in on that transaction. The same is true for gift wrap. If you have gift wrap as an option that requires them to upgrade with an additional cost. If I charge $1 for gift wrap, they're going to take out the 5% or 5 cents out of that gift wrapping fee that I'm charging. And they are going to separate that out on the bill as a transaction fee for the gift wrap. It's going to show up as a separate line item in your payment account. So regardless is if you have the total amount that includes gift wrapping and shipping, or if you have the item plus an additional shipping charge plus an additional gift wrap charge, the amount of transaction fees that you're paying on that transaction is the same. And that's why they do it that way. There's no way around it. And this actually has been not really recent. It's been probably a couple years now that they changed it, but they used to not charge transaction fees on the shipping charges, but what they were finding is that people were trying to get around the transaction fees by charging a lower price for the item and a higher price for shipping so that they didn't have to pay the transaction fee. So like maybe instead of charging the $49 that I charged for a blanket and then offering free shipping, they were charging $25 for the blanket and $24 for shipping. And then they only had to pay the transaction fees on the actual blanket amount, not the shipping. So several years ago, they changed that so that you're paying those transaction fees across the board for the total amount of money. This also encourages you to offer free shipping, which we all know that they've pushed for because you're not getting a break on any fees or anything. In your payment account, you will see it broken out. So it is, it's listed as transaction fees on each piece of the charge, and you'll see a transaction fee when the item sells, and then a transaction fee for the shipping amount, and then a transaction fee for the gift wrap if you have those things available. If you only have, like you have free shipping and you're not offering gift wrap and you just have the transaction fee for the item, it shows up as the first like line item for that sale with whatever listing picture you have on your payment account. And it's 5% flat across the board, pretty easy to calculate. If you're not sure which one is the transaction fee when you're looking, calculate the numbers out. Calculate how much they have taken versus how much you got, and it should equal 5%. If it equals 5%, then that is your transaction fee. The next major fee that you pay on Etsy is the payment processing fee. And actually, payment processing fees are not just on Etsy. They're pretty standard across the board, whether you're selling on your own website, like a Shopify site, or you use PayPal or Stripe or whatever. They're credit card fees. They're not Etsy specific. It's not a fee that Etsy's charging, but Etsy does take that charge because all of the credit cards are processed through Etsy payments. So they're not directly related to selling on Etsy, but they're related to payment processing with credit cards. It's pretty difficult to avoid these no matter where you're selling. So if you're trying to compare, let's say, selling on Etsy to having your own website, you do have to take into account that the payment processing fees are there regardless of what you're doing. Etsy payment processing fees vary by the country that you're located in. So I will link the actual link to Etsy, which breaks it down by country, in the description of this video when I get done. But for the US, the payment processing fees are 3% plus a flat 25-cent fee. So 25 cents plus 3% of the transaction. In your Etsy payment account, these are listed as sale. When you're looking at your payment account, there's a column that says type, which is the type of fees, and these are the sale fees. That's how they're listed in that payment account. If people are buying more than one item at a time, so they're, let's say, buying a quantity of 4 of something, you're only going to pay that flat 25-cent flat fee one time. So for instance, if you have your mug collection and someone buys 4 mugs at one time, you're going to pay 3% of the total cost plus 25 cents. You're not paying the 25 cents times 4. It's for the transaction, the total transaction, not the number of listings on Etsy. To think about this in terms of your payment processing fees, one thing that I want you to take into account is that the 25-cent flat rate charge can be a large portion or percentage of your sale. It can make up a larger percentage of your total transactional sale if you're selling lower priced items. So for example, my average order value in my shop is $41. So when I add that 25-cent flat credit card processing fee charge, that's only an additional 0.6% to my fees. So my credit card transactional fees end up being 3.6% of the average order value in my shop. However, this could look really different if you're selling lower priced items in your shop. If you're selling something, let's say your average order value is $5, then that 25 cents makes up 5% of your total sale value. So this is kind of hard if you're not a verbal learner, audio learner, whatever, to have these numbers. I did this math ahead of time because I wanted to run through these examples because I think it's something that's really important for people to really understand. I'll try to have some written stuff out after I get done with the video if you're a more visual learner. But so let's say your average order value is $5. That 25-cent flat charge makes up 5% of the total amount of your sale, meaning that your credit card transaction fees are ending up being 8% of your total sale price because you've got that 25 cents plus the 3%. This is really something to be aware of, again, because I want you to think about how you present your items in your shop and really think about what kind of groupings you could do or you could create within your listings to try and get that average order value up higher so that that 25-cent flat fee doesn't make up such a large percentage of the sale amount. So this is something that you have to strategize within your price point and your items, but it's something that I want you to think about when you see, when somebody says on a Facebook group, Etsy took out 25% in fees. Some of these things are dependent on the price point of your item and the price point of your average sale. So, if your average sale is $1, then that credit card processing fee at 3% plus 25 cents is going to make up a huge portion of your sale. Getting that average order value up then is really important if you do sell those lower priced items so that you're not hit with these flat fees that are going to be such a larger percentage. The same would be true of listing fees. If you sell a $1 item and you have a 20-cent listing fee, all of a sudden that's not looking so good. If you have a $100 item and you pay a 20-cent listing fee, it doesn't really make a measurable difference. So some of this does really depend on your price point, but the overall takeaway from that is if you sell those lower priced items, I want you to really think about how you can group them together and how you can consolidate them into groups so that your average order value is not $1, so that you can get that average order value up, and that's going to be a lot more profitable for you. Getting those conversion rates up and getting the average order value up is something that we talk about a lot in Scale Your Sales, and we really think about the ways to get repeat customers to come back to your shop because that's a really good way of increasing that average order value. Somebody that's already ordered from you, already been happy with your product, and is coming back to purchase again is a lot more likely to make a larger purchase in your shop. Let me check on the questions here, make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, I've missed quite a few, so let me scroll through really quick. Okay, so Kristen asked if you use Pirate Ship for your shipping instead of going through Etsy, then your transaction fees will be lower. No, they will not be lower. They will be the same. And I made that point in the thread that people were talking about this, and the person that I made the point to really did not like my answer. But there is no way around that transaction fee. That is for the total order. So if someone is buying a $10 item and they're paying $5 in shipping, you're going to pay a 5% transaction fee on the total $15. If you just list it as $15 with free shipping, you're going to pay that same transaction fee of 5% of $15. It does not matter where you print your labels from. It does not matter if you use Etsy shipping or not. They're charging that transaction fee on the total amount that you brought in through the sale. Okay. So the next part that I want to talk about is off-site fees. I'm going to go back and answer some questions later, but I want to get through these fees so that the people who don't have any questions can, log off if they need to, and then I can answer questions with people who have questions. So the next part I want to talk about is off-site fees. These are a big one. So in your Etsy payment accounts, these are listed as marketing in the shop payment part of your dashboard. So the offsite fees are relatively new. They started less than a year ago. And they're optional if you have less than $10,000 in sales, but you have to turn them off. And they're not optional if you've crossed that $10,000 threshold in the last 365 days. The fee is dependent on where you fall. If you are under $10,000 or over $10,000. So under $10,000 in sales, you're going to pay 15% in offsite fees. I think I said under. If I didn't say under, that's what I meant. Under $10,000 in sales, you'll pay 15% in fees. Over $10,000 in sales, you are required to participate in the offsite advertising thing, and you pay 12% in the offsite ad fee. If you fall into the 12% category, you are required to participate. They do not give you the option to opt out of it. And honestly, there's just really not anything that you can do about it. So in that case, I would encourage you to look at your stats. The way that you look at your offsite ads is you go to your stats and then you scroll down a little bit. And then there's like a very small place that talks about like sales being brought in through offsite ads. I can't remember exactly how it words it, but then you can click on that and you can see the actual number of sales, the amount of revenue, and how much you paid in offsite ad fees. I really want to encourage you to dive into these numbers and really look at it, because it's very easy for people to get upset about it and say, you know, I don't want to pay 12% in fees. That's crazy. Or I don't want to pay 15%, although you wouldn't have to if you were in that category because you could opt out. But for those of us that cannot opt out, people get super worked up about these higher cost offsite ad fees. And I get it. I am not super crazy about them. It's not a program that I really love. I'm not thrilled about being required to participate. However, if you look at your stats page and you look at the amount of sales that are being brought in through those offsite ads, my guess is it's probably a very small portion of your sales. For example, I looked through my own shop, and I think I talked about this in the Year in Review podcast episode towards the beginning of January, but for all of last year, all of 2020, I paid $153.66 in offsite ad fees. So when I calculated this out across the total amount of revenue for the year, the $153.66 that I paid in offsite ad fees make up 0.1% of my revenue. 0.1, not 1%, 0.1. So if I added 5 cents to each listing, I would more than cover the amount of fees that I'm paying in offsite ad fees. So when people freak out and they say, like, I have to add 12% to my price for every single listing so that I can cover offsite ads, that's not really true. You're not selling every single item in your shop through an offsite ad. So I want you to look at the bigger picture and the broader range of what number of listings and what amount of revenue you're actually paying in offsite ad fees and how that impacts you. Now, of course, I'm not really going to add 5 cents to my pricing because it doesn't matter that much. And I certainly have more than 5 cents in profit built into the pricing in those products. Which if you are not priced appropriately, then that's kind of a different situation and you definitely need to look at that. But, you know, a 5 cent fee that I'm paying to counteract the total amount of offsite ad fees that I'm paying is pretty negligible within my business. So I'm not really going to do anything about it. But I am giving you this as an example because although I have the 12% coming out in offsite ads for every sale that come in through the offsite ads, overall, it is such a small portion of the total amount of sales that are being brought into the shop, and the amount of fees is just adding such a negligible amount that it's really not worth stressing over. I see a lot of people really freak out about these offsite ads because potentially, I mean, if you were paying offsite ads fees for every single sale that you made, then that would be definitely something that you would have to work into your pricing. But from what I have experienced and what most people that I have talked to have experienced, the offsite ads bring in some sales here and there, but they're really not a significant amount of sales. So again, I don't want you to take this as me saying that the offsite ads are not a big deal or that I like them or that I agree with them or that I want to pay 12% because I don't. I don't particularly agree with them. I'm not super crazy about them. But I think that more than that, it's just extremely important for you to really understand the impact that changes like this make rather than just being reactionary when Etsy makes a change like this and people get all up in a tizzy. And if you hang out in Facebook groups where people like to be up in a tizzy all the time, they're going to be like really mad and angry and, you know, Etsy is stealing all my money and all of this stuff. But I think it's really, really important that you run the numbers in your shop, that you have a really firm grasp of what the impact is on those fees and on those changes like that so that you can see whether or not it's something that you even really need to take into account. If, for example, I would say 50% or 80% or something of my sales were coming in through offsite ads, they would make a huge impact and I would have to raise my prices. But that's just not the case. And I don't think that that's probably going to be the case for your shop as well. If you're in a position where the offsite ads are bringing in a huge amount of sales or a huge impact in your shop, then I would really encourage you to look at ways to drive more organic traffic to your shop. Part of the reason that it's not super impactful for me is because I have a lot of organic sales coming in through the SEO that is optimized in the Etsy search. If you're only getting those sales coming in through marketing like offsite ads or even on-site ads, that's going to be a much, much more expensive way of doing it. So those are the main portions of fees, and all of those fees come out of your bank account before the money is deposited into, or they come out of your Etsy payment account before the money is deposited into your bank account. Other than the listing fees, you're never going to have to pay transaction fees or payment processing fees or offsite ad fees if you don't have any sales. Those are things that are directly associated with making a sale. So the only thing that you're going to be paying if you don't have any sales are the listing fees and a few other things that we're going to talk about right now in just a second that are more optional, but a lot of times people don't really understand. So I do want to talk about some of those because this is also something that I see a lot in Facebook groups, or I see a lot from newer sellers who don't really understand the fees that they're paying. There are some things that come out of your Etsy payment account prior to the money being deposited, or they are charged directly to your credit card or whatever payment you have associated with your account, even if you hadn't made any sales. And a lot of times when I see people talk about how expensive it is to sell on Etsy, they're not understanding how each transaction is broken down and how those fees are impacting them. So they're grouping them all together, and then they're saying, Etsy's charging me 50% of my fees. Like, I made a sale for $20 and I only had $10 deposited into my account, so they charged me 50% in fees. And people that are newer to Etsy are like, oh my God, I can't believe they charge 50% in fees. That's crazy. That is not true. And if you ever see this online or in a Facebook group or whatever, just know that that person is not understanding what they're being charged, and they're not understanding the optional things that they're doing that are making their fees be higher. So they're not correct in saying that fees are so higher that those fees are, 50% or whatever. They're just confused about what the charges are covering. So some of the things that come out of your payment account prior to the money being deposited or charged to your credit card or whatever would be your subscription. So if you are a part of Etsy Plus, that's $10 a month. If you signed up for Etsy Plus, you pay $10 a month every single month. If you have sales that cover the $10 a month, then it'll be deducted from your shop payment account. If you do not have any sales, they will still charge you that flat $10 a month. That's still going to happen. Just like listing fees, it's going to happen. So if you have a $20 sale and then you only see $10 deposited, it could be that you're subscribed to Etsy Plus and they've taken that $10 out. Probably the numbers wouldn't be quite that round and pretty, but that is a huge chunk if you're not making a whole lot of sales. And frankly, I would not recommend that you upgrade to Etsy Plus if you're not making a whole lot of sales. The other thing is shipping labels. If you have printed off a whole bunch of shipping labels, the money is deducted from your payment account as well. So if you made a $100 sale, but you printed off shipping labels for 5 other sales from different transactions, and that money's already been deposited into your account, but now you're printing off shipping labels because you're just now finishing the order, then all those shipping labels are going to be deducted before that money is deposited again. Etsy shipping labels are a great way to ship things. They provide really competitive rates and they make it easy for you to ship straight from the platform, print out the label, and you're good to go. But again, you need to understand that that money is being deducted from your payment account. So it's not something that you pay afterwards. It's money that's deducted before those deposits are made into whatever account you have set for it to deposit. So let's say you had 10 orders that were done and you have like a 3-week processing time on them, but your deposits are done every week. You could potentially have a deposit that deposits all the money from all these sales that you just made, and then that money is deposited, and then you didn't have any more sales, and then you printed off all these shipping labels, you're gonna see a charge on your credit card for those shipping labels. That's not a fee that Etsy is charging you. It's not directly associated with Etsy. It is simply paying for the shipping that you're buying. You would either have to pay for through it, pirate ship, Etsy shipping, PayPal shipping, the post office, whatever. You have to pay for shipping in some way or another. It just makes it, I guess it mixes it together a little bit more when you print off the Etsy shipping because they deduct it from your payment account. So I guess in that way, it makes it a little bit harder for you to keep it like cleanly separated. I still use Etsy labels because I find them to be extremely easy. It is in the price comparisons that I have done for my products and the weight of my products, it's not cheaper to ship through pirate ship. I know that that is different for some people that have larger or heavier items. I have heard that it is a lot cheaper. For me personally, the convenience of printing it straight from Etsy is worth it. So that's where I stand with that one. Lastly, the last thing I want to talk about is Etsy ads. And these are the on-site ads. They used to be called promoted listings. Now it's under your marketing tab, Etsy ads. This is one of the biggest places that I see people sink money into without having really a strategy or a whole lot of thought process of what they're doing. And it can get really, really expensive. And then they're very frustrated by how expensive it is to sell on Etsy. But really, it's not that it's expensive to sell on Etsy. It's that they're doing this marketing without any kind of strategy or any kind of optimized listings. And so it's not being very fruitful for them. This is an optional charge. It's always optional, no matter how much you've had in sales. There's not a limit like there is with offsite ad fees. So if you're not making money from Etsy ads, turn them off. You do not have to participate. My recommendation with Etsy ads is that you do not participate in them until you are getting organic traffic and sales from the Etsy search. You don't need to be running any ads if you're not getting any traffic through the search. The ads are not a replacement for bad SEO, and they're not going to be very effective if you don't have good SEO. So no ifs, ands, or buts about it, really. They're not going to work if you're not already getting organic traffic. If you are getting organic traffic, then there's something to look at in terms of being able to increase that sales number. Again, these Etsy ads are paid for with money from your payment account, and they're charged to you regardless of if you've made any sales from them. So if you set your ad budget at $5 a day, you're going to pay $150 in Etsy ads, regardless of if you have any sales from it or not. If you don't make any sales from it, then you're just going to get a bill for $150. So this is, again, something that people get really confused about because they're like, I've had students come to me before saying like, I am paying all this money to sell on Etsy and I'm not selling anything. And I'm like, why are you paying all this money? Like, you should only be paying a 20-cent listing fee. So, I mean, even if you have like, 100 listings, you're talking about $20 every 4 months. $20 is $20, but it shouldn't be like breaking the bank every 4 months. And a lot of times what they are doing is paying for these Etsy ads that are not paying off. And so they're just sinking this money into these Etsy ads. And I have seen it to the tune of thousands of dollars that people have paid with very, very little sales. So let's say you make a $20 sale in your shop and you've run ads to your shop. They're going to take that ad money out before you deposit that $20. So again, this is something where people get really confused because they lump it all together in the fees. And then they're saying that Etsy's charging really high fees. I had a $20 sale and then they took $5 in advertising and then they took the 5% and the 3% and the listing fee. And oh my gosh, all of a sudden I'm having, a 10-cent deposit. Etsy's fees are so high. This is not an Etsy fee. It's an optional marketing program and you don't have to participate. So if that is really eating into your budget and it is eating into your profits, then make sure that you turn them off. So again, I just want to kind of summarize this, sum it all up by saying that if you're seeing this around the internet or you're seeing in Facebook groups that I've seen lots of people like screenshot, I made $25 in a sale and I'm only having a $5 deposit this week. Etsy's taking 80% of sales and fees. It's just blatantly incorrect. That is somebody that is not understanding the business side of what they're paying in terms of fees and the optional programs that they're participating in, like the subscription and the ads. The only fees that are mandatory for you to be paying on the platform are the 20-cent listing fee, the 5% transaction fees, the payment processing fees, and the offsite ad fees if they apply to you and you're required to opt in, or if you have chosen to opt in and you get a sale from the offsite ads. Okay, so now let's look at the bigger picture. Let's say you have a $10 sale that you made through an offsite ad and you're under $10,000 in sales for the year. So you pay the 15% fee for the offsite ad fee. You may want to get a piece of paper if you're a visual learner like I am, because I'm going to run through a lot of numbers. I did this math ahead of time, but I just want to make this point because I think it's really important. So you have that $10 sale, you made it from an offsite ad fee or from an offsite ad, and you are in the 15% category for those offsite ad fees. You're paying the 20-cent listing fee, a 50-cent transaction fee, which is 5% of $10, and you would be paying 55 cents in payment processing fees. So that would be 3% plus 25 cents. And then you'd be paying $1.50 in offsite ad fees. So with a $10 sale, you would have $2.75 in fees, which would make up 27.5% of your sale, which is pretty high. Now, let's say that you make that sale through an organic method without the offsite ad fees. You would be paying those same listing, payment processing, and transaction, but that would only equal $1.25, which would be 12.5%. So for a $10 sale on Etsy, you'd be paying 12.5% in fees. So now, the point that I'm really trying to make with all of these numbers is, let's say rather than that $10 sale, you make a $30 sale. Your listing fee stays the same, it's still 20 cents. The transaction fee would be 5%, so that would be $1.50. And the payment processing fee would be $1.15. So the total fees would be $2.85 or 9.5% all in. And obviously that percentage goes down even more for a higher order value. It's extremely important to know your numbers and what you're selling, and to know like kind of what that expense looks like for your average order value, your products, your listings, and to really understand whether or not some of those expenses make sense. You know, a 9.5% total fees that you're paying is a completely different story than 27%. You know, at the 27% mark, I would say, yeah, your fees are pretty high. I mean, you definitely need to be looking at your price point and make sure that this is profitable. 9.5% is still going to be significantly lower than any other platform. Like, for instance, Amazon charges 15% across the board. So when you're comparing it to other platforms, something like that is really, it's cheaper, but it's like competitive. 27.5 is not super great. So that is going to be dependent on your price point and what you're selling. You need to get super comfortable with these numbers, because I don't know if you can tell by how many numbers I've thrown at you, but I'm kind of like a numbers geek. And to geek out on what those profit margins look like, what the fees are, what the percentage is, and how that really relates to your overall revenue and what your take-home income is super important. Because if you don't know those numbers, even if you are not a numbers geek and you are like, oh my gosh, I really don't want to do this, you have to sit down and look at it, because without knowing it, without knowing whether or not you're paying 9% or 27% in fees, it's going to be really hard for you to set an appropriate price point that's going to make sure that your business is profitable. Regardless of what your price point is, the more organic traffic that you can get into your shop through the Etsy search and through your SEO, the lower your expenses are going to be overall, because you're not going to have to pay for the marketing, you're not going to pay for the offsite ad fees, you know, you're not going to pay for the Etsy ads, and then the subscription, the Etsy Plus subscription, is kind of neither here nor there. You can do it if you want. It's not going to boost your shop a whole lot. The percentage of income that your fees make up, it gets to be a significant portion more if you're paying for ads and offsite ad fees. So that is all I have to say about fees. I want to invite you again to Etsy Myth Week next week, Monday through Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be doing that every day. And again, I will be hosting my masterclass, 3 Sneaky Mistakes That Will Sink Your Etsy Shop and How to Fix Them for Etsy, and how to avoid them for Etsy success, at 9 a.m. on Friday. And you can register for that at laurenkeplinger.com/sneaky mistakes. And I hope that I will see you there. I am going to click over now and see if I can answer some of these questions that I'm going to have to scroll way up for people. Okay. Melinda says, I have a question. If I have digital download items and physical items, will they still be able to do $35 for free shipping, including the digital item and physical items together? I would like for them to be able to. I believe they can. I don't sell a whole lot of digital items, so I don't have personal experience doing that. And so I would, I'm pretty sure it doesn't really ask about that though. I think it's like flat over $35. So, I mean, you can test it out and make sure if somebody else has this combo physical and digital that could chime in with that. That would be great because I don't sell those together. But I'm pretty sure that Melinda, it would be true regardless. Brianna says, I disabled shipping upgrades. Today, someone purchased and spent the over $35 and selected priority with no charge again. Why does this keep happening? You need to look at your shipping profiles. There's got to be some sort of, if you go into your shipping account in your dashboard, either you have the free shipping guarantee turned on, and that's why it's happening, or there is some sort of disconnect in your shipping profiles that's allowing them to upgrade for free. All right, there are a few people that have chimed in here. So Frankie says, if I offer free shipping, but I don't go through Etsy, I use UPS, do I still pay a fee? You pay the transaction fee on the total amount of transactions. So if you offer, you know, if you have a $30 sale and you charge $20 in shipping and you're going to take that to a UPS store and do it, you're still going to pay that 5% transaction fee on the total $50. It doesn't have anything to do with where you print your labels from, how you ship it. You're paying the transaction fee on the total transaction amount. Okay. Andrew says, so much great info. Seeing a lot of people joining in. Just wanted to say, if you just joined, make sure to go back after the live is over and watch from the beginning. So many myths busted. Thanks. It's like that show, Mythbusters. I used to love that show. This is Etsy Mythbusters, except I'm not like doing the science experiments and everything. Okay. Jillian says, I take my packages to the USPS to ship. Is this way inefficient compared to in-home Etsy labels? I would say yes. And there are two reasons for that. First off, it's really annoying to stand in line at the post office if you have anything else that you would rather be doing, which frankly, I'd rather be doing almost anything else than standing in line at the post office. But even more importantly, Etsy labels include tracking with them even on first class packages, and they have commercial rates. So it's significantly cheaper to ship from Etsy than it is to ship directly from the post office. All right. Fran says, if I edit my listing, I change the photos in the description, and I hit publish again, will I be charged another 20-cent fee? That's a great question, and the answer is no. If you post that listing, it goes live, and then you're like, oh crap, I need to change some stuff around. You go in there, you edit it, you do your thing, you publish again, that you are not charged again. The only way you would be charged again is if you opted to renew it, which you wouldn't do that. That wouldn't make any sense. So if you're just editing listings, it is not charging you extra. However, that 4-month time frame starts from when you publish it for the first time. So if you publish it the first time and then 2 months later you edit it and you hit publish again on that same listing, it's only going to finish out that 4 months. So it would only finish the rest of the 2 months. Hopefully that makes sense. So it's 4 months total, and then you're going to pay again. But editing a listing doesn't make you have to pay that listing fee again. All right. All right, I think that's most of the questions that I see that have to do with fees and everything. Again, I want to remind you that I'm busting through these myths all next week. And I hope that you guys will join me 2 p.m. every day. I will be here talking about stuff I see on the internet that is just not true as it relates to Etsy. I will see you back in the group. And if you haven't registered for that masterclass, I hope you will. I had a great response last time. It was super fun. There were like several hundred people on there, which was like an awesome energy and just really, really fun for me. It's really nice for me when I actually have people talking back to me and I'm not just staring at my computer talking to myself. So laurenkeplinger.com/sneaky mistakes. And I will see you there. And I will see you on Monday, even before then. All right. Bye, guys.